Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Love Well podcast. My name is Anna,
My name is Marlene.
and we're so glad you're tuning in today. We actually have a very special treat for you guys. We have been able to connect with some mutual friends and have some guests that are actually siblings. So we are so excited to be able to record and to get a taste of their story and hear from them. So Eunice and Glenia, would you guys tell our audience a little bit about yourselves?
Yes, hi. Thank you for the opportunity, just the ability to be able to share our story. My name is Eunice. This is
Glenia.
we're sisters. And our story, I think, is unique in the sense of we knew of each other, but we really didn't establish a relationship, a physical relationship, our sisterhood until I was 16 and Glenia was 18.
Mm-hmm.
So that in itself says a lot, and so we're just honored and thankful for this opportunity.
Yeah. That's so exciting. Can you tell us a little bit of, where you're located? What are some of the things that occupy your time, hobbies, or if you want to share with us a little bit more of that, so we get to know you all a little bit better.
Yeah. Do you want to go first?
You do first.
So I'm a mom. I have 3 beautiful children. I'm married for it's going to be 16 years already. For interest or hobbies, I love to worship. I like to read. My family and I love outdoors. For profession, I used to be a school social worker for 10 years. The last 7 as a school dean. And in the last year, the Lord has just provided a way for me to do private practice, counseling and therapy for families and individuals and groups.
That's awesome.
Very cool.
Thank you for sharing.
I'm a mom too. I had 2 beautiful girls. One she's 20 and the other one she's 10. And I work for a babysitter. I love kids. And I have a grandchild too. That he's gonna be 2 months.
That's amazing.
And
Congrats.
yes,
Yeah.
I'm not. I look so young, but I'm a grandma.
I was going to say 20 years old.
You
Wow.
do. You do.
Yeah.
Doing great.
Yes. That was not so easy, right? But I can say, I'd say thank you, God, too, because He opened doors for me and for my kids, for my husband, So that's what I am.
That's amazing. No, thank you
love
so
that.
much for sharing. Yeah, we love to just get a little bit, of cultural and context into who you are before you share some of your story. Which again, thank you for stepping into this space with us as we walk through this conversation around immigration. And wanting to, as we have shared again and again, our heart for this is to center it back to the people. And you are a part of that. So it's incredible that we get to hear some of your story. So as we get into your story, you mentioned a little bit already, which is what we're going to delve into. Can you tell us a little bit more about your cultural background and what life looked like growing up? I know you mentioned you grew up differently. So if you can share that with us, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
Well,
Take turns.
I lived in Guatemala for 16 years. I think I stayed with my grandparents when I was like a year and a half. So that was not easy because you always gonna miss your parents, right? And I know I have my mom, but she had to come to United States. And my dad, he was not real too much in our life, But I know my grandma, she was telling me that my mom, she had to come for a United States for a more better life for us, And I have a brother too that he was 2 and a half. So, and I know I have a little another sister that's Eunice. And I never see my mom when I was like, I think she was 6, and I think I was 8. That's the first time that I meet my sister.
Wow.
So for me, that was super excited because, you know, when you never see your mom, you was like, wow, now I'm going to see my real mom and my sister. So that's kind of a little excited, you know. So I remember when I was in school, I was telling everybody, finally, I'm going to see my real mom and my sister.
Yeah.
And in that moment, that was so happy because I see my family. But that was kind of a little hard too when my mom had to say goodbye again, you know. And I had to stay over there. So that was not easy because I really want to go with my mom.
Yeah.
You know. But, you know, life is not like so easy when you have to live separate with your parents, because I think it's hard. It's very hard, you know. You had to how do you say this? Sorry, I'm kind of a little nervous.
You're
But
totally fine. You're doing amazing. Thank you for
thank you,
even
Note.
going there. For even going there. Yes.
Yeah.
But I knew that one day I was gonna be I was gonna be with my mom, you know, because she always said, I promise to you guys that one day you guys gonna come with us, you know.
Yeah.
But I really wanna be with my mom, you know. That was my dream every day. And I remember that sometimes I say to my grandma, and my mom, she don't come and tell me where her, I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I had to go. Because
Yes.
yeah, yes, because especially when that was Mother Day, and you see all the kids with his mom, and I was like, where's my mom? You know. So it's kind of a little complicated, you know. But but I say thank you, God, because I know I really understand now that my mom had to come here for a more better life, and she did it. He made his promise, and my brother and me come, you know. And that was I know that was kind of a little hard for my mom, you know. That was not easy because leave two childrens in different country, you know, that's hard, right?
Yeah.
So, but I said thank you, Jesus, because she did it. She did it, and I meet my sister and a new family for me, because I only see my sister one time,
Yeah.
and all my life I see my mom one time too. So for me, I was like, wow, it's a new family, new beginning, new everything. So it's, yeah, like that.
Yeah, so I mean, just hearing that, right? Having a sister who didn't have grow up with mom, her perception of things, right, and just how she felt. So on the other end, I was born and raised here. As she said, we're Guatemalan, descent. Um, my mom migrated in early 1980s, so I was born and raised here. The reason why she left was one of the biggest reasons, which a lot of my, individuals migrate just for a better life, right? They come for the American dream, and my mom was one of them. And so, leaving a domestic violence situation, as my sister said, our father was not active in our lives, and so even though she was closer to him, to our biological father, he was an absent father, unfortunately. So born and raised here, as very similar stories that you've had on your podcast. Growing up, Spanish speaking mom, single mom. I started to go to school, so automatically I start learning the language, right? I'm understanding the American culture, so of course my mom is dependent a lot on me. So as many people who share their stories, they kind of end up growing up a little bit sooner, just because of the responsibility of the translation piece.
Oh yeah.
And so you're like a little adult, an 8-year-old that's a little adult translating and explaining
Medical
things to your parents.
document. Adult stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
Adult things. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. But one of the things that I am thankful for is that our mother always mentioned my sister and always honored my sister and my brother and made sure that, she provided for me. She also sent to them. Very hardworking young woman at the time. And, she committed herself to, I want to bring them, I want to reunite our family. Wasn't easy for her. I couldn't understand, right? I was raised as a single child. So at that point in my mind, growing up, I'm a single child. I know I have siblings, but that's not my experience. And even though I have an absent father, probably the impact isn't as big as my sister's because I had my mom with me.
Yeah.
And obviously my sister at that time doesn't. So there's that, piece of it too, that culturally, just the fact that our mother migrated here, well, the impact that had. But again, I think in despite of that situation, which is difficult, the communication piece was there, so at that time, there wasn't technology.
Yeah.
There wasn't, Zoom didn't exist. So we were either write letters and we would send tapes, audio recording tapes to each other. So she would tell us about how she's doing at school, the holidays, celebrations, and we would do the same thing. We would record our voices because at that time calling was also expensive, right? We didn't have WhatsApp. So either you would go to the corner store and get the calling cards. And that's when they had a phone, because for a minute they did not have a phone. Again, it was a very economic hardship, and one of the reasons why my mom left. And so even that, the phone call came probably later on. It started with letters, pictures, and audio cassettes.
Wow. How precious. I just love that. Thank you for sharing that, first of all, but just I love the fact that you still were able to honor each other, and despite whether you were able to be in the same place proximity wise or not. I just love that you were still reunited. Can you tell us like what that was like when you guys did reunite here? Because I believe you said you were 16, is that right?
Yeah.
You 15.
It was 15 or 16.
No, I was 16 when I come to here.
So then that,
okay. You was 14.
Then that probably.
Yeah.
Okay.
I remember they come to October 12th, 19. Yeah.
Okay, so you were 16. Okay, I wasn't sure. I couldn't remember.
Yeah.
Wow. So
I remember
you're
because
different. Yeah.
I was so excited when I know that I was going to come to United States that I forgot my papers in the chair. The paper that you're supposed to put resident,
Yeah.
So I was already sitting in the airplane when I was like, oh, my papers. So I had to running and back to go get it,
Oh,
because
man.
I was so excited to come to see, my new family, Finally my dream come true, But yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of emotion there. Because you have siblings, but she's excited, right? Family reunification. I'm excited too, but my whole life I've been an only child. And at this point, our mother did get remarried. The Lord blessed her with an amazing man who's our dad. He's been in our lives and an active male role model, and we call him Dad. So at that time, we had a little brother already, a half brother, and now my sister, she's the first one to come legally to the United States. It took about, it was, you said 16 years for her, the paperwork, the process in itself. So a lot of times there's a lot of questions as, go through the process, go through the right channels, but the length of that, it's so complex and so hard.
Yeah. Can I ask just a little bit more about that? Because every story has been different. Even we have had many different ways that you can migrate here to the US. Was there a petition that was made? Can you tell us a little bit more of the process itself, if you don't mind?
Yes. So in 1980s, Ronald Reagan did, I think, one of the best immigration policies, amnesty program. And
Yeah,
by the grace of God, my mom jumped right in and was granted residency and then citizenship. The fact that our stepdad also is Puerto Rican also helped the process too.
for sure.
But nevertheless, it took I was 12 when they got married, so it still took 4 years
Oh yeah,
before everything was granted.
yeah,
Because our mom always said, she didn't want them to go through what she went through, so she
yeah,
wanted them to come through the right channels.
yeah.
And it took some time, but it was worth it. At least I think that process. You can share a little bit about your first time on the airplane.
Yeah,
That was your first time on the airplane, right?
Yeah, that was my first time.
So I'm sure that was quite an experience for her. But it was a positive one.
Yep.
Yeah.
wow.
I
Yeah,
love that.
thank you, thank you for sharing. Yeah, Glenia, I would love to hear a little bit more of. I know, well, I'm from Honduras, born and
Okay.
raised there. I moved to the U.S. 6 years ago, and I know that there's a lot of differences of growing up in Central America that it is
Mm-hmm.
to come to the U.S. Everything is big. I've
Yeah.
shared on here like just my first initial reactions to like, oh wow, okay,
Like
this
how
is
to
a
get
thing.
gas and
This is a
all
thing.
the
How do you
things.
pump your gas? All the little
Mm-hmm.
things that happen
Yeah.
with immigrating, and even the hard things that come with that, missing home in a sense.
Yeah.
But I'm curious to see, because your situation obviously was completely different. But you also have that you grew up, like your childhood is in Guatemala, and then you come
Mm-hmm.
here to the US, and everything is different. So can you share a little bit more of that, like, yeah, being even on an airplane for the first
Yeah.
time, yeah.
Yeah. For first, that was so cold. So I want to go back because the weather is. I come in October, so that was cold.
It was.
In Guatemala, that was super hot.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow. So that was
I
a bit
feel that.
different. Yeah.
Yeah.
But inside in me, that was like, I'm excited too because it's okay. No matter what it's cold, I'm going to stay because I'm going to see my dream
Mhm.
that was going to stay with my mom.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the beginning, you so excited, you so
Mhm.
happy, so you don't feel too much the different because you you was gonna spend time with your family. That's what you want to do, right?
Yeah.
But when I had to go to school, I don't really want to go to school.
Yeah.
Only my dream, I was like, I'm gonna go to work, do my stuff that I want to do in Guatemala, and come back over there. So that was
Mm-hmm.
my, the things I was want to do.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't really want to go to school, but and my mom said, at least take the GD.
GD.
And I was like, okay. So my mom, she helped me and find a school for me for go to, I think, 2 days in the week.
Mm-hmm.
But that was a teacher that he said, no, you too young. You have to go to high school. But I was like, I'm 16. I'm too old. And he was like, no, I'm a teacher in Kelvin Park that was close to my house.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, but I don't know how to speak English. I don't really know anything. So what am I gonna do? And he's like, no worry about it. I'm gonna help you. I was like, okay. But I was very nervous.
Of course.
When
Yeah.
you go to different country, different language, it's different.
Yeah.
But he helped me and my mom said, okay, you can do that. But I said, you're gonna start the beginning and freshman. I said, but I'm too old. I'm gonna be like 21. But he was like, that's okay. But you're
Yeah.
gonna learn. I was like, okay, that's fine. So I did it. That was not easy because when I go do the first day and I go to the office to the principal, he was like, oh, it's okay, no worry. There's a lot of kids like you, so I'm gonna put it like bilingual classes. So I was
Yeah.
like so excited.
Mm-hmm.
But when I started all my classes, that was in English. and I really understand anything. So I was shy, nervous, crying, and I was like, "Oh Jesus, help me, please."
Yeah.
And but I was like, and the other person, he told me, "You can go and change your classes so you can understand, so you can put in Spanish." But I was like, "I'm not gonna do it because I had to learn English. I don't know how to speak Spanish already, so I'm gonna stay like this." So I stayed like that, and that was not easy. I cried so many nights, nights,
Yeah. Yeah.
because it's not so easy when you go to different classes and nobody, and sometimes the kids is not like so nice,
Mm.
sometimes laugh when you speak, you don't know how to do it, especially when the teacher asks me, Glenia, you have to read. All the time I have a headache, so I can read. Because I was like, I don't really want to do it because I don't want the other kid, making
Yeah.
laughing to me too.
Yeah. Yeah.
How I can read. But it's it's hard. It's not easy. You have to do a lot of stuff. But I did it. I finished my high school,
Oh, you
and
did. Yes.
I,
Let's go.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
yeah, that was not easy, but I did it.
Yeah.
And in that point too, I started fighting a lot with my mom too. Because
Mm.
maybe I was kind of a little jealous for my sister.
Mm.
Because sometimes you think the life here is so easy, or when you come you think everything is different,
Mm.
because it's United States, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's
Mm-hmm.
not.
Mm-hmm.
So uh I feel that my mom, she always loved more my sister than me, because I never so
Grew up
that's
with her. Yeah.
yeah. So I was fighting a lot with my sister. She can talk. But yes, that was like so many years. But well,
Yeah.
uh,
Well, can I commend you and can I just say, like, you have to be so brave to be able to say, no, I am going to stay in the English classes because I need to learn. There's a need that comes with it that, again, not unless people that have immigrated from other countries to the US without, especially when they're older, because I think it's
yeah.
a different experience when we have had guests that they again grew up here, and
Mhm.
you have that kind of, okay, start first, second grade, it's easier to catch up to
Yeah.
do the language even. And it's interesting you share your story. In my church there's two girls that are just immigrated like less than 6 months ago from Ecuador, and they're sharing with me how hard and crying to me like i I don't understand it, the English is so hard. And I just look them and it's giving them a hard time, and I'm like, man, it breaks my heart,
Mm.
and yet they're still showing up. And I'm reminding them of who they are and don't let them make you feel any less, because you are fearfully and wonderfully made. But man,
Yeah.
just hearing your story, I'm like, I think about those two girls and the bravery and the courage that it takes to say, and even though they're picking me at school and bullying me and making me feel less than for because I don't speak the language. So I just want to say I commend your bravery and your courage, and it's just
Mhm.
incredible. And thank you for sharing that with us for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
To be 16 and to be, go to high school. And so by then I think I'm a sophomore,
Mhm.
and so again, born and raised here, I understand the culture. Yes, at home, we speak Spanish, we eat the Spanish food, where you come from a Christian family, that also played a impact too, because she grew up Catholic in Guatemala.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
that difference of dynamic too, I'm sure that was a culture shock as well, not only in
Yeah.
the culture but religion wise. But now I'm also learning, it sounds so simple, right? So basic, But as an only child, you're not always sharing your things, your
Right.
room, your stuff, right? So all of a sudden, I have to learn to compromise even more. Now
Yeah.
the attention of my mother is not just no longer to me. There's a new baby, and now there's my sister. In a few months, my older brother is coming in as well. And then we have a stepsister from Puerto Rico that within a year of her coming, she also comes to live with us. So
Lots of dynamics. Lots
That's
of
a lot of
layers.
transition.
yes,
A
all
lot of
of
change happening at once. Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
lot. Yeah, a lot of
yeah.
change. A lot of change.
Oh, yes.
Within a year and a half, our family, it was my mom and I to my stepdad, my mom and I, and then within, I think in a span of 3 years, it ended up being a party of 5 and my parents, our parents. So it was a lot of changes, a lot of changes. And even though there was many joyous times, lots of celebrations, holidays were fun, the tradition, merging both cultures of Puerto Rico and Guatemala, our blended family. There also were a lot of challenges,
Yeah.
and my sister spoke a lot about them. And it took a lot of, I think there was a purpose of me growing up a little bit faster. And part of it's because my mom was very dependent on me because I knew the language.
Yeah.
So you naturally develop an adult kind of personality, so I think I always been kind of like the mediator or trying to understand, hence, which is probably what navigated me to go into social work and therapy.
Yeah.
Because I kind of felt like I was the the therapist of the family, or trying to navigate and balance, things, and trying to help her understand. But that doesn't take away of my own anger and my own issues, and probably the hurt that I also placed on her. So it goes both ways. But I think that because of the situation, I developed a passion for people. And I love the title of your podcast, right? How to love people well. And that's just of all walks of life. Because if we see the grace of God and what he did in our relationship as sisters, I wish my mom was here. That's a whole, I'm like, I want to write a book on my mom. That's a whole other story.
She can do
Yeah.
But just seeing how the Lord's grace covered us. And at that time, as a old school Christian family, therapy wasn't an option. You just trust in God and you deal with what's at home. We've come a long way from that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm in high school. I'm taking all this in, high stress. And so my mind starts to going, I just want to leave the house. So my goal in school was, I want to finish school. I want to go off to college, and I just want to leave. There's too many people at home. There's a lot of drama. I'm trying to keep the peace, but my whole point was, I want to leave as soon as possible.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh man. Well, thank you for sharing that. I was going to say, I feel like the Lord kind of has redeemed so much in your family's story. And it's so cool to just be able to hear your story more so, but just witness the relationship that you and your sister have now. I know family is very difficult and it is very complex. And so just to see how you guys have worked through all that is very commendable as well. I feel like your mom has to be a powerhouse of a woman to be able to do what she did. And wow, yeah, I mean, she should write a book. I don't even know her, but I feel like that sounds like something she could do.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so I want to ask Eunice a question that we kind of have seen our guests express as second generation immigrants. But it was kind of this feeling of like neither here nor there. Do you feel like that was kind of like an experience that you mentioned there was a lot of change, there's a lot of transition that just alone in your family happened within a short time. I'm just curious, like with the whole even merging of, you mentioned Puerto Rico and Guatemala cultures in that way, like is that something you experienced as well, or how did you work through that?
It was what was there. So as a kid, I grew up with community. So I think one of the things that helped us through all this, and despite of what we went through, It's just our church community. And so our church community was both a lot of Puerto Ricans and very few South or Central Americans. So it was a culture that, I was very familiar with. So it didn't really negatively impacted me. If anything, it was like, we're Spanish. There wasn't really a sense of difference. And I think that didn't really hit me until I got older.
Okay, yeah. No,
So
that's
do you
fair. That's
feel,
fair.
no, that's really good. And I was so curious, especially because again, we have Glenia that came from
Right.
Guatemala, grew up there, and it's and I even talk about our share my experiences with my friends who are second generation or different from me that I'm immigrant, and we talk about the complexities and the both and, right? Because I think that when we have conversations around this, it's like, well, it's all look this way or it should look that way, and people within, I know when I immigrated here, and it's something that I had to work through, is even telling second generation, people, oh, well, you don't really get it. And then it's like, well, you also don't get it. Let me tell you in the ways that you don't get it. And let me share in the ways that I don't get it. So it's just been interesting, to hear those layers and to have you both not in the same household, have those experiences as sisters and having two different worldviews, really, and you said not only growing up in different countries, but also religion, like not religion, but yeah, like just different traditions,
cultural background. Yeah.
values, and how that, comes into play into who a person is and how, they live life. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. I know it's not an easy thing. I am honestly floored just at seeing the redemption, I think, piece of your family and your story, and seeing that you are there sitting down together, and that like there's clearly love. Can you share a little bit more of what has the role of God has been like in your family's story, however you want to interpret that question? But yeah, how have you seen God in your stories? And because I see a lot of redemption, but in what other ways have you seen him in both of your stories, whether it's individually or when it came together? Would love to hear that.
Well, and even like you both have families now, how that's even like transpired into
Oh,
your
yes.
own families, you know?
Yeah, I think we're both definitely we're definitely breaking some adverse childhood trauma, and we're so thankful to the Lord. I think a lot of people in general, everybody has a walk of life. There's some trauma there, some more than others, but nevertheless, we all have some sort of background that makes us who we are, at the present moment. But I do want to say that, because of what we went through, I think that there's been some, by the grace of God, some conscious decisions that we've both made to ensure that our children, don't have to experience what we experienced. Right. Statistic tells you that if you are, your mom was a teen mom, you're going to become a teen mom. Then there's a generational pattern of that. Sure. If your mother was a victim of domestic violence, you're most likely to be a victim of domestic violence, and the rest, right? And so we give honor to God that we've broken that, and I honor a lot my sister, and I think that it took a lot of maturity, a lot of communication. Arguments were ugly at some point. And at the beginning, we didn't go to therapy, but eventually, as we matured and got older in our 20s, we went to therapy along with my mom. And so it was prayer, God, prayer, and therapy.
There you go.
That's combo.
Yeah.
And I think that, just having another person, right, an objective person, just helping us guide and dialogue and understand each other. And just that opportunity in itself. And then to realize, let's not blame mom for her decision, but let's honor her for her decision. Because of her, we're here today, and we have the blessing that we can give to our children. Yeah, my children have no idea of what this is. They don't know that. They don't know that life, right? They hear it. We'll share stories, but they don't know that. And that's all through the glory and honor of God.
Mhm.
That's incredible. Wow.
Glory
What
to
a
God.
story, honestly. Thank you guys so much for sharing. I mean, that I know is going to bless so many people, and just having those two different perspectives alone is so unique and so special, and I'm just grateful that the Lord has redeemed your family in such a beautiful way. I know it's not easy and it hasn't been easy, but just to be able to listen and hear what your heart is with this. Okay, so we'll kind of wrap up this podcast, but I want to hear something that both of you guys love about your Guatemalan culture. I don't know why I can't speak now. Something that you're proud of to be Guatemalan, and just something that you can share with our listeners.
The food.
The food. Yeah.
Food. I mean, the food and the people.
The people so fresh.
We actually happened to go to Guatemala 2 years ago,
Yes.
where
How
I
was
met
that?
2 years ago, we went to
Oh,
Guatemala.
how cool.
We went
Amazing.
together. We took our children, our husbands. They've never been. And then we got to meet, because my father ended up having 3 other children who are all the same age as us now. And we rented a beach house and we got together.
How
So just the culture, the music, the food, the people, so humble, so sweet, so generous. It was like we were all in shock. And that's something that is I feel like very different from the American culture. They're so individualized. Everything's like, gotta go getter. We gotta go through it. We have to make, use of every time, every second. In Guatemala, it's like, enjoy it. It's okay. Like, we're peaceful. Let's talk, sit down, very family oriented. But yeah, so that's something that I really love.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything, Glenia? I'm just curious. Again, there's so many things I miss about home. In Honduras, when I hear you say, I'm like, yes, 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 that's exactly what I was able to say. I'm like, why is everyone not, so individualist and not like sharing, and neighbors don't talk to one another? But Glenia, is there anything that you miss particularly about Guatemala?
Well, to be honest, not too much, because I feel that my life that was kind of little rough over there.
Yeah,
That was not so easy.
for sure.
So
Yeah,
I don't think so.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I miss the people,
yeah,
and
for sure.
a lot of friends that go to school together, but not too much. And I
Yeah,
really enjoy when I go to Guatemala. I love to go to see my family,
yeah,
spend time and everything. But I always say I never want to come back and live over there,
yeah.
you
No, I
because
get that.
I I would say that I promised to myself that I want to make trying to do a more better future for my kids, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's why I don't think to miss too much. Whatever. in
No,
that in that.
That's understandable.
I completely, yeah, I can see why it would be that. And similar to me, I share that sentiment. And I'm like, yeah, I love my country. I'm proud of being catracha, hondureña. And I also know the reality of living there. I mean, my
Actually,
parents
my
live
my
in
daughter, my
France.
little daughter, she's half Guatemala and half Hondureña.
Really? Oh, so we have that's amazing. Well, I love that. Thank you for sharing that fact. Yeah. Anytime I meet a fellow Honduran catracho, um, it just fills my heart with so much joy. But yeah, no, I appreciate, and there are so many questions that I would want to
Yes.
talk about.
Background.
I know it's such a short
Yeah.
time, especially because you talked about going to therapy. I mean, and just if we talk about that, and we could go and just
Hours
break
and yeah.
hours and hours for sure. I feel that, and it's something I'm also very passionate because in the Latino community, we do not do that. So hearing that and just how it is a amazing tool that the Lord uses to really bring healing.
Amen.
You know, how it's underused. So even hearing you, Eunice, say that you have your private practice, I can't imagine, you know, how wonderful it is that now you get to serve, you know, people in that way. So yeah, so many other questions that I would want to ask you all. We'll definitely have to connect offline. But one thing that we like to ask our guest as we wrap up an episode is, you know, this is the Love Well podcast, right? We know when we share with people, the United States is a country that, I mean, it's an immigrant country. Well, let's start there. And we want to encourage and challenge people to love that people that they will find. It's not a matter of if, but when they encounter people that are different from them. And we see that we all can think about, like, if you're listening, you can think about one or two people that pop up, like even it's someone at a restaurant, or it's someone in your neighborhood, or etc. in your school. We all will encounter people that have different experiences. So what is something that you can encourage us, all of us? How can we love people well? Specifically when it comes to, you know, the immigrant community.
Yeah, I think a lot of times assumption, you know, can interfere with our judgment. And I think the beauty of just, you know, listening and showing compassion and ultimately grace, just like the Lord has given us grace, right? Just extend grace, give grace, because you don't know what people are going through. And that's something that, you know, through our story, we, you know, I personally have learned, you know, and that's something that I take personally, professionally, just, you know, giving grace.
Wow.
So good.
That's beautiful. Beautiful. What about you, Glenia? What would you encourage us with? Or would you want to share? Maybe think about 16-year-old Glenia when she came to the US. What is something that you had wished, or maybe something you did experience? You know, someone treated you with love, or you encounter that. What would you encourage us with? How can we love well?
Well,
I know that might have been a loaded question. So apologies. I just, you know, again, just appreciate you being on here. Yeah.
Wow. For my experience, right?
Yeah.
For me, that was kind of a little hard to love people because I never grown out to where my grandparents never teach me how I can love, right? So for me, I was like, how I can say, very hard to show how I love the people. Maybe I can feel it, but I don't want to show the people that, oh yeah, I love her. Especially like when my mom, sometimes I want to give you a hug, but I don't want it. Inside me, I was like, no, I'm not going to do it. Because I never feel love with my for my grandparents, right?
Yeah.
So, but one day, you know, I was telling myself, no, I had to cut that thing. And I'm not going to do it anymore. Because when I had kids, I want to do the different. I don't want to be like the same like my grandparents. I really want to show every day to see my kids tell her, I love you guys, you know, good night, or, you know, spend time in the night. Because I never had that thing, you know. So I was like, I don't want to do the same thing. Like my sister said, repeat the same story because I don't know like that, so I'm gonna continue to be like that. And I said, no, I have to make the difference.
We're
So
gonna break that.
exactly, yes. So and I did it, and I always say, especially when now the people come and talk to me, they have a little experience like my story too. I always say you have to love yourself first.
Mm.
Before you love to other people, you have to love yourself. And that's what I teach myself. And I go to the Lord, and you have to teach me to how I can love myself. Before love you and love myself. Because I knew that I'm gonna love God and I'm gonna love myself. I'm gonna know how I love the other persons.
Mm.
And I did it. Yeah.
That's essentially why we called it
Yes.
the Love Well podcast, because
I love this.
we want it to be a place where we're all learning how do we love ourselves well, how do we love God well, and how do we love each other well. So you just said exactly why we started this thing.
Amen.
Thank you for
Survey in
sharing
itself
that.
also. It's like we can't give what we don't know, right? What we don't
Exactly.
know.
Yeah, because
So
sometimes it's hard,
Mm-hmm.
And I was living for so many years like that. And I feel alone, and I feel that nobody loves me, and I feel so many things in my mind to come and say, oh, nobody loves you, you're alone. But I said, no, everybody love you. But sometimes it's because you don't want to open your heart.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I said, no, I had
the
to
word
start.
right there.
Because I
Yeah.
think I always said to my friends, and you can pick two choice, or continue like that, or one day say, no, stop, I'm gonna open my heart, and God, He can come and change everything that's not good. That's what I say. And I always say thank you, God, because I know He does such a things, miracles in me. My sister, she know.
She's a transformed woman. Praise Jesus for that.
Oh, I love
Yeah.
it. I
Well,
love it.
that was nice, but I'm here. I'm continue to that. So yeah, I feel that's how I had to love to people.
Mm-hmm.
You're a walking miracle, and it's honestly very humbling to hear both of your stories, and again, the redemption and the beauty. And of course, in 40 minutes we are not going to address all the things, but the things that were unseen, and how God
Right.
walked alongside each of you and your family. What a
Mm-hmm.
gift. What a gift. You have blessed me so much, personally, impacted by your story right now. So thank you for sharing everything that you did. And yeah, just thank you, Jesus, for
Yeah.
for your lives. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. Yes.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you. And may
Yes.
God continue to bless your podcast, and you continue to share these stories for His kingdom, to expand His kingdom and bring healing to others.
Yes.
Amen.
Amen. That is our heart, that is our posture, and that is our desire, for God to be glorified, and for people to just lean in and listen more of God, really, because this is a reflection of Him. It's not even about us. Like, it's not about us
His
at
people.
all. It's
Yeah.
about Him and His people.
Yeah.
And there's something one of you mentioned, I think it was you, Eunice, earlier, is like, yeah, we don't talk about this. These are a lot of untold stories, that are in the margins. And I mean, for Anna and I, it's a calling. Like, no, we want to bring those stories out of the margins and say, no, this is, look at God, look at His power. Like, this is not like a small, no, this is a mighty God that broke chains, that broke barriers, that allowed borders to, just be cut, and to bring redemption. So thank you for allowing us to come into, this part of your story and sharing it so vulnerably with us.
Yes.
Forever changed. Thank you.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
It's been a pleasure to have you guys. Is there anything you want to say, Marlon?
No, I was just, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, it's been a pleasure to have you guys. And like Marlon said, I know this has blessed me. This will bless so many other families. I just can imagine what God will do with this as well, as He continues to work in all of our lives. And so with that, we will catch you guys on the next episode. Bye.
Bye.